Vince Lubben of Wireless World. And you've been with Wireless World. Have you done anything else?
Yeah, I did. When I got out of college, I sold computers for a while, and then I sold medical equipment for a while. And then in 1995, I started selling phones out of the trunk of my car.
Wow.
Old bag phones.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You okay. You really went into it.
Yeah.
Those things were serious.
The old days. Yeah, I started in August. It was hot out, and I remember when I did the interview, my boss said, your quota's 12, and 12 phones a month. I didn't know if that was hard or not.
I mean, that's a lot for those.
Yeah, for those days, it kind of was. Well, I accepted the job, and then the day I started, he said, well, I got some bad news. I got an email. Well, email was new back then, 1995. So he said, I got an email. The quota is now 18. Do you still want the job? I said, I don't know. I guess so. Why not? And I come out of that meeting, and there was 3 existing reps, Ken, Bill, and Melody. And it was just funny because they said, Vince, you should have been here earlier on because you could sell less and make more money. And they kind of made it sound like you should have been here in the good old days.
Right.
And you know what's hilarious about that is people now tell me that I got started at the right time.
Those are the good old days.
Yeah, those are the good old days. But they thought even older was the good old days because it was easier and the money was better. But so I didn't think it was that hard. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So started on a Monday, and Friday afternoon I go to my boss. So what do I do tomorrow? And I'm an old farm kid, so I'm working 6 days a week plus doing chores on Sunday. And he goes, well, it's Saturday. You can have the day off. I said, well, can I try to do something? He said, well, you can grab a cardboard table and a canopy and a banner and go find a spot along 41st Street and see if you can sell some phones. And I said, okay, I'll try that. It's hotter than blazes, and I set up a little stand right in front of Shopko on 41st Street. And I'll never forget, I didn't really know much about it yet, but I was just putting myself out there, and Mark Graham pulled up in his convertible Mercedes, and I didn't know who he was, the owner of Bell Paper Box, and I got talking to him, and he says, what are you doing out here? I'm trying to sell phones. I said, well, it's pretty impressive. You're working, trying to sell phones. Tell him more about it. And he says, well, I need 13 of them.
Oh, wow.
Can you see me on Monday? And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't got nothing else going on. So I got almost most of my quota in that first week, and
I know they
it's
did.
been a good ride.
I know they didn't like you in the office.
Yeah.
They probably, look at this guy
coming in. But
there's something to be said for that, which is showing up.
Showing up with a good attitude.
Yeah.
Possibility thinking, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you made that big sale right out of the gate, got you going. What kept you in it? Because those months don't always pile up.
Right. Yeah, they don't always pile up. But it was something simple enough that I knew I could do, and it was just a numbers game. I knew I could be persistent enough to win because before that I was selling medical equipment and computers. Both things got very complex, and I wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Cell phones are simple.
Yeah.
It just, if I call on enough people, I'm going to get enough yeses.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just focused those first 40 days making at least 40 cold calls a day, most of them in person versus, on the phone.
Right. It's funny that you said that because I was a cell phone guy for a while. I used to run a few kiosks for a preferred dealer. And this was probably 2004 when it was a little bit of a boom, where they were kind of flying. And I remember this was such a great lesson for me in terms of sales. I've always been a bit quick, and so I had a sales spiel to die for. I mean, it was killer.
I bet.
And there was one older lady that came up one day, and there was actually a person that was kind of shadowing me, and they were, kind of standing there. And she gets the phone, and it was the Nokia
918 or
yes,
918.
yes, the Nokia 918, yes. And so I was going through, and I was showing all the stuff, and I was like, and you could do this and this and this, and I gave her just the best spiel, and I wrote it all out, and then she just looks at me in my face. She says, you know what? You're a fast talker, and I don't trust you. I'll buy it from that guy.
Really?
And I'll be like,
I
just crumbled into pieces. But it taught me just a valuable lesson in that I was more focused on my spiel than I was on the customer.
The customer.
And she let me know it in such a transparent, real way. And I appreciate it. I really do, because it really changed the way I, spoke with people, and I became a better person after that. And it was less about selling and more about listening.
Listening,
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to get sometimes, especially as a young, hotshot type of person.
Yeah. I've learned that lesson in a similar fashion before. So yeah, very true.
Well, how did you navigate into ownership? Take us a little bit through that journey of how you get to that point, because right now, I mean, you're in 5 different states,
Yep. 45 stores.
45 stores, more
Yep.
than I even thought.
Yeah.
So how do you get to that point? That's a journey.
Yeah, it was a journey. So I worked for ComNet as an outside sales rep for a few years, and then in 1999, the end of 1999, I got the opportunity to start our first store in Vermilion, South Dakota. And then the beginning of 2000 is when ComNet Cellular became AirTouch, and then merged with some other companies, became Verizon Wireless. So that was the spring of 2000. And that all took effect on March 1. And my firstborn was born February 23. He was in intensive care. He's fine now, but it was in intensive care on March 1. And I'm opened up 4 additional stores that day, and 3 on my own, and then the 4th one in Sioux City with a partner named Todd. And I'll never forget that day. We went to Sioux City, drove down there with phones and a cash drawer and landline phones to hook up to do the calls and accessories. And we get there early in the morning, like 6 in the morning, to get set up because the store opens at 9. And we had to kind of set it all up because the previous people moved out the night before. And at 9:10, a customer walks in and wants to buy a car charger, and gives us 2 20s, and I think the car charger was $30 or something like that. And we look at each other. Neither one of us brought any change. So we're like, did you bring change? Like, yeah, like a bunch of rookies never did this before, and totally spaced off that we need change. So I remember going into my car, digging through the ashtray and finding all the change I could find to get this customer change back. And then one of us ran to the bank. But, just sometimes you fly by the seat of your pants. And we did. It was hard going. I remember Todd, in that shop in Sioux City, they actually had a back bay with a garage door, because back then you do installs. People would mount them in their car. And so we had an install bay. We didn't use it because that was kind of on the way out. But Todd would drive his car in there some nights and sleep in his car. Yeah. So he would be there, work late at night, be there in the morning. We didn't really have money for a hotel room.
Wow.
Just saving every dollar we could.
Wow.
And that's how we started.
Well, and actually, this is something that I'm obsessed with, especially in the Midwest, because sometimes our Midwestern humility limits us and we don't reach for those things. So I'm really interested in people's audacity. Where did you get the audacity to think that you could build this thing? I mean, we're talking about 4 stores on the day that your child was born.
Yeah.
Like, you had a lot going on.
Wow.
So where did the audacity come from?
Probably from my mom and dad, just kind of how I was raised, working hard, grew up on a farm. I'm glad I'm not a farmer now, but it was good for me to learn how to work hard and get up at 5:15 every morning to milk cows through later years of grade school and all through high school and through college as well when I was home. Yeah. So, yeah. And then my mom always had a good, persistent and grateful attitude. And I think that come through on me, and just thinking that, you know what, God's given me these talents. Let's see what we can do with them and use them to the best we can.
Okay, so now it's a journey from milking cows to selling cell phones.
Yeah.
Right? That's a different bag. And you start the 4 stores, and then obviously it went well, but it's not that simple.
Yeah.
What was that next kind of?
So then, yes, we had those 4 stores. It became 5 right away, and then we thought, well, let's see what else we can do. So we added another partner, and ended up with a store in Sioux Falls, and then we added a store in, I forget the order exactly, but Aberdeen, and then a few more in Iowa. And it just, every year we'd go add about somewhere between 2 and 4 stores. And then we had an opportunity to go into Minneapolis a few years later, and we added a couple stores there, and then added a few more into Minnesota. And then Verizon bought Alltel, and we ended up with a few stores through that transition, which is good. And that kind of got us more into Nebraska.
Okay.
Opened up some stores there. Just kind of looking for those opportunities. And we're, if you perform well and do it with integrity and work hard and do what you say consistently, Verizon would recognize that. So when opportunities would come along, they would say, hey, there's an opportunity in this town, will you consider it? And they would call everybody they thought would qualify, and we would step up when we could and take those stores, and generally always took advantage of those opportunities as they come along and build a store and try to run it the best we could.
Well, another major thing for us here is vision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how did you see it then, and how do you see it now? How do you, like, what are you trying to build?
Yeah. Somebody just asked me that the other day when I started with, did I see it to have 45 stores at the time? And I had to stop and think. At the time, when I first started, I could see having 1 or 2 stores in Sioux Falls. That's the vision I had. But I think it's kind of like when you travel in a car, you go a mile, and then now you can see, if it's a clear day, you can see the next half a mile or a mile, depending on the terrain, or a couple miles. But when you're here, you can't see way over here. But as you go to here, now you can see another mile. You go a mile, now you can see another mile. You go a mile, you kind of see another mile. So as we add 4 or 5 stores a year, then you can see, I can see that.
Yeah.
We have the people and the strength and know-how to do the next step. And it kept going and going. So now at 45, I can see, now we have a great, great leadership team.
Yeah.
So I can see we could add another 20 stores pretty quickly.
Wow.
And then grow it again next year.
Yeah.
So the capability's there because we had a great team, and we have the systems in place.
Yeah, we refer to that as visioning and versions. A lot of times when people think about a vision, they want to see every single nook and cranny, and even when they do, they get thrown off when things change. Well, things are always going to change, and so you got to switch to that next version, and you can't really dwell on what you saw. You got to acknowledge what you see.
Yes.
And it's just
it changes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go that second mile and there's a detour,
right?
Or a stoplight. That doesn't mean you got to stop, and then you figure it out and keep going.
How do you think about that when you run into those obstacles and the detours? Because for me, we're weird in the way that I think we just have the attitude where every time we come into an obstacle, I just think, okay, there's a certain percentage of people that are not going to follow me past this point, And for me, it's a thinning out almost, and so I've developed an appreciation of obstacles to a certain degree. How do you approach those type of moments?
That's a good way. Obstacles sometimes are just opportunities disguised, and so you have to work through them, and you find out what you're made of, what your team is made of when you run into those obstacles, how loyal they are to you, what's their strengths, what's their talent level.
Yeah.
And it just, you're going to have obstacles. Unless you're in the grave, you're going to have obstacles. And you just have to figure out how to handle them. And obviously some obstacles are a lot bigger than others, and you just have meetings and figure out some options and take the best option and move forward.
Yeah. Well, then let me ask you plainly, what are you made of?
What am I made of?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Um, I probably respond and say, my goal, my purpose, deep down, is to help others succeed. I guess that would be what I'm made of, is try to help others. And that's different than it was 20 years ago or 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. Just have a better perspective in life. And if you come to my office on my whiteboard in front of my desk, you'll see my purpose, my goal, to help others succeed. And Zig Ziglar always said it best, I believe, if you help enough other people reach the top, you'll reach the top as well.
For sure.
You help others succeed, you get to succeed along the way just as a byproduct. And some of that's changed, a lot of that changed when I went to Haiti in 2014.
Okay.
Mayor Tenhaken asked me to come along with the dispatch group, and that just gave me a perspective. And there's a lot of power in perspective.
Yeah.
And I got to meet a lot of people there that had almost nothing and were happier than I was on most days.
Yeah.
And it just like hit me. It's like, you can see the pictures, the National Geographic pictures or commercials that try and raise money for different third world countries. But when you're there and you see it, and you see their smile on their face and how happy they are to see you, and give them a yo-yo or some bubbles to blow or a little hot rod car to play with. They're so happy. And I forget to be happy and just to be count our blessings.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Because that was always interesting to me, because as a part marketer and all those other type of things in my mind, I was always interested in that. They would show the hungry kid that was skinny with the fly on their eyelids and that type of thing, and it was built on drawing on people's heartstrings and for some people even the guilt of it.
Yeah.
What I thought was just such a missed opportunity is showing how people can be happy in those environments, because for me that's more inspirational, because then I say, man, what could these people do with these resources if you know how to be happy in that space? And I think that's such an interesting thing when you're around people who go through those struggles, is how they persevere through it and how they are happy. We always ask our folks that we do a leadership development program, and all the folks, we ask them, you can take one person or two people and put them in the same situation. One person be happy, one person be miserable. Why? And it's just it's that mind state.
Right. Yeah.
It's that mind state.
Yeah, I call it an attitude of gratitude. Is if you have that attitude of gratitude, and I guess this is part of me as well, to answer your previous question, is just in my life, I believe it's a keystone habit. And for people that are happy consistently, they are grateful for what they do have. Oprah said it best: the more I count my blessings, the more blessings I have to count. If you focus on that, or like you said, somebody that just focuses on the bad. And I try to remember that. Now, I'm not perfect. Some days I feel down in the dumps and crabby and having a bad day, but I always fall back on that.
Yeah.
People that have that attitude of gratitude, they have a perspective that's powerful, and then a lot of the other things will fall into place.
For sure.
In their life.
I've always been a person too that just believes that the more you give, the less you take too.
Yeah.
Because some people have that mindset that if I want, I have to take it. But what I've just found is that when I give, stuff shows up at the door.
Oh, for sure. And you can't always explain it.
Yeah, that was Amazon before Amazon, right? You put good vibes out there, you open it up, and good stuff is just there. And that manifestation, what fuels that for you? Because there's so many people out here, some that have, some that don't, that just cannot get there. And there's a lot of good reasons why they can't. There's a lot going on in the world to take you off of that. What keeps you on the truth?
Keep going back to Haiti, generally, just to remind myself, and we've gotten to develop some great friendships down there with people. And it's just fun to go back and see them, and how what we're trying to do there to help others is making a difference. But it's going back there, and we were there in early January, just to have remind myself
Yeah.
of how fortunate or lucky, whatever term you want to use, that we were born in America. Because I didn't have a choice to be born in America.
Mm-hmm.
And those poor kids that are hungry and live 6 people in a little 2-bedroom house.
Yeah.
They didn't have a choice to be born in Haiti.
Yeah.
And I just have to stop and remember to thank God for what we do have.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember I did a mission trip, and it was it was actually in Atlanta, and we went to a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
And we were in there, and we were sitting with all of these. Most of them were middle-aged men. And you know, just those normal tropes of people who are homeless you have in your mind. And I came from the inner city of Buffalo, New York, so my family was poor for the all of those type of things. But you still think that way of if you're here it's because you chose it, because you're lazy, and all those other type of things. Which
I don't agree with. I used to.
Yeah.
I used to. But it's hard because everybody has their own set of obstacles, and we have our own set of God-given gifts and talents. And maybe some of them, if they were lazy, they could have had a job and don't, or they get a job and they don't try very hard. So there is a group of that. There is, for sure. There's people that have the gifts and talents but are just lazy and don't try.
Right.
They have a poor attitude. They can fix that attitude. It's not easy.
But you can.
But you can. There is another group of people that don't have the skill set.
Right.
Have some disabilities, whatever, and the cards have been stacked against them. And I've learned to have a lot more love, grace, and mercy towards those and try to help them versus to judge them, because Jesus did the same for me. Love me and not judge me. So there's a balance there to love them first, then what can I do to help?
Well, this is what was eye-opening for me. We went and we were talking to them, and first of all, just who I thought they were as humans to begin with was different. You know, people were computer programmers, or this person had this, and then whether it be an addiction, gambling, drugs, whatever, all these different challenges that really got people off mental health issues, whatever it is. And then they ended up in this particular space. But what really just clicked something for me is that at the end of the night, they made sandwiches, and then they took them outside to the folks who were homeless and weren't in the shelter.
Really?
And what that just clicked for me so clearly is just that, I am my brother's keeper, and no matter how little I have enough to give. Yeah. And that for me was just like, it just held me in with that perspective. I'm so glad that I got that early in life. Yeah. It's guided me well. Yeah.
Yeah, just some of the people that have nothing are the biggest givers.
It's true.
And they might be given more time or a bigger percent of their salary or their resources. But it's that if we all were more servants and more loving, we would have a lot less problems that we dealt with in 2020. Man, we could talk about that forever.
For sure. But that's actually an interesting thing I do want to talk about in terms of that giving spirit, because part of the secret sauce, as I understand it as a person that's objectively looking at wireless world, is that is a spirit that is in your organization, how you deal in terms of the culture of the people on your team and the people that you serve. Talk a little bit about your philosophy that way and how you've woven that into your culture.
Yeah, so a couple ways. One is they will get paid to go do volunteer work. They can get a day a year, or maybe 2 days. I should ask my HR department what it is exactly, but I know for sure it's at least a day. They'll still get their hourly rate or their salary, and they can go volunteer. In a lot of towns, we've painted houses, cleaned ditches, serve at the soup kitchens, the banquets of whatever community we're in, do Boys and Girls Clubs, Christmas gifts, lots of examples like this. I know a group from Sioux Falls here is working at the food bank tomorrow. And so they can get paid for it. The other thing is they're incented to do it is we have a 10-month contest called President's Club. And our top salespeople can earn a free trip to somewhere warm, usually Mexico.
Yeah.
And to make President's Club, you also need 10 leadership points. And some of the leadership points are, what did you do for community service? What did you do to serve others?
Yes.
What did you do to give back to your community? We don't even call it give back. We call it serving.
Mm-hmm.
Because giving back means you've taken first. I don't want that attitude. I want to be a servant heart.
Yeah.
So they have to do some of those things. And now the last couple of years, we said you don't need all 10, but if you want to raise, you need 5 leadership points. And that comes from the community service,
Yes.
serving others, reading books, or attending other self-help.
My business partner is super. He's a book guy, heavy book guy. So when he heard about the book thing,
Yeah.
he was over the moon. He's like, I don't know, maybe I should go work at Wireless. Easy, man. I'll buy you books. Like, relax.
Yeah.
You know, but that's such a big deal because it's not just about and for us, we work with a lot of organizations on their culture, and one of the things that's counterintuitive for people that we try to drive home so much is that if you try to make somebody a better employee, that's really for you. And even if you're successful, you won't necessarily make them a better person.
Sure.
If you make them a better person, you will always make them a better employee.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
You know?
it goes hand in hand. Yeah, so we pay people to read books in our organization. Depends how long the book is, somewhere between $50 and $100 for you to read a book and write a two-paragraph statement of what you learned in that book and what you're going to implement in your life and send that to your boss. And that's been fun. And we have some employees that top it out every year at $600 a year. We had to cap it out because I had one gal. She would have probably got a couple $1,000 a year from me, so I had to find a cap on it. But and the books don't have to be sales books or business books or leadership books. They can be how to raise your kids. It can be the 5 love languages to how to become a better spouse. It can be those types of books as well.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we believe that if you're a better person, you'll be a better employee and you'll treat your customer better.
Every time. And I found that the people who have stuck in my life in terms of in my mind and in my heart, the teachers, the coaches, the people who their words still live in my mind that I actively engage with are all people who taught me things.
Yeah.
They're all people who helped me be better, helped me unlock things in myself. And I'm just sure you have so many employees that feel that way about you and the organization.
Yeah. We get a lot of compliments on that, even after they've left for a few years and so forth, and it's always fun to see that. Yeah. Some of our people, I know they're going to grow, and other opportunities are going to come along, and another guy just called me, or come to my office the other day, said, I'm going to pursue this other opportunity in a different field that I have a high interest in, and he said, you'll never know how much you helped me. I said,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it feels good.
So that's a big deal. You know, your willingness, your ability to be able to gauge in your folks, that takes a lot of boldness. And we know this because there's so many people that don't do it. How did you develop, what is behind the courage to be able to do something like this, which is quite honestly radical at the time that you started doing this stuff?
You know, when I worked for other people, I didn't always know the why behind things.
Yeah.
And there would be a mission or vision statement on the wall or come across in an email and some core values. But as I went through that, I was like, I'm not sure why they want me to do this or that, and they wouldn't really tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, if I'm ever going to be a boss, I want to explain more and tell people the why. And I believe that the more you tell the employee, the more they are likely to care. The more they understand the mission, the vision, why you're doing a certain task, the more they are willing to care and therefore give in extra effort. And so throughout this process, we really focused on our mission and vision statement and our core values. Mm. And what I found out is it doesn't matter if it's a millennial or a 50-year-old or whatever, but they need to be able to connect those dots.
Yeah.
And so I draw it out, And I'll say our Wireless World Way is our mission and vision all wrapped up in one, is to do what's right, to be number one while improving lives. That's our Wireless World Way, our mission vision statement. So do what's right for your coworker, for the customer, for Verizon, for Wireless World. To be number one doesn't mean that you're going to stomp down somebody else or push down somebody else to make yourself look better. It means the opposite of that. It means do your absolute best so that you give such a great guest experience that customer, the guest, says, this is my number one salesperson.
Yeah.
Whenever I need something wireless, I'm going to go back to Brandon or Joe or Fred or whatever. And then do what's right to be number one while improving lives. What we get to do is we get a lot of technology to help people, whether they got stranded in a snowstorm or just have the technology to communicate with their friends and family. That's what we do. So we have a lot of great opportunity to help improve people's lives. I always make a joke, if you don't really think the phone's going to improve your life, then just give it to me for a day and see how your life is messed up. You know.
But that's an interesting even dynamic there, because for me, who was in sales most of my life, banking, cell phones, all those type of things, for me, that's really the key to nuance to being able to sell and sleep well at night.
Yeah.
Is the difference between selling someone a house and helping them find a home.
Yes.
Between selling someone a phone and helping them be able to use it
the way they want.
Yeah, to communicate, to connect.
Yeah.
Those for me are that perception is the difference between feeling good about what you're doing and just moving the thing.
Yeah. So we have the Wireless World Way, and then underneath there we talk about our 13 core values. I won't go through them all because we're going to run out of time, but two of them that we focus on, one I already mentioned is attitude of gratitude, and the second one is guest experience is everything we are. And we have to understand that without the guests, we're nobody. We don't have a business. And then from there, the third thing down is connecting the dots is to their personal mission and vision, or their goals, their dreams. Because we're all, as humans, what's in it for me? With them, what's in it for me? What are we going to do? What motivates them? So I always tell my managers, find out what your employees want, and our job is to help them get it. And then you have to show them how you connect the dots. So on down the things that they got to do, greet the customer, keep the parking lot clean. That's our first impression. Keep the store clean. Offer them all the things that we sell. So even greeting the customer as soon as they walk in helps them earn money so they can get the car that they want or pay off debt that they want. And when they do that, they're using our core values to keep them on the road and not in the ditch. And reach our Wireless World Way. And it's a win-win. But sometimes you got to connect the dots from, why do I got to clean the bathroom or clean the parking lot? And how does that go to help me pay off my credit card debt, which is their personal goal? So we draw that out a lot and connect those dots, because as humans, sometimes we forget. We just get caught in our own short-term thinking.
It's funny because everything, I just said all this stuff yesterday. Like, it's so in line. I just love it when I hear it, because it's so great to hear in organizations, because once you have adopted it and you can see how it works, it seems obvious.
You're right.
But it's just not for a lot of people.
Right.
But knowing why you're doing what you're doing is such an important component to doing it well. Yeah.
Because otherwise they just show up and do a half of a job.
Yeah, I know where you're going. But yeah, you just, and not to mention, it's like it's taking ownership and being a part of something that's legitimate and real. And so when you go and you have Thanksgiving with your family and they say, how's work? Because inevitably one of the 2-3 questions you're going to be asked by anybody that you know when you haven't seen them in a bit is, how's work?
Yeah.
And for that person to be able to say, I love it, or to be able to say, it's great, I love who I work with.
Yeah.
I love who I work for. All those other type of things. Like, that is the magic.
It is.
That's where it happens.
And life's short. If you don't like it because you're not made to be a salesperson, then that's okay. You can go do something else. But life's short. We want you to love your job. If you don't love it, and let me help you find something that
Yes.
fits your gifts, talents, and desires.
I love it. We always say, don't fire people, let them go. If you can't be happy here, go be happy
Somewhere.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Life's short. You gotta do what we love.
That is awesome. We got a couple minutes left. What is that thing? What is that thing that you would give people that you think can impact their lives, that can help them stay on that path? That person who is on the verge of accessing that ambition that you accessed all those years ago when you started those 4 stores. What is that thing that you would pass on to them?
Remember perspective, and how fortunate we are. That attitude of gratitude is a keystone habit, and sometimes you have to push yourself, and then remember to be persistent. And for me, it was also remember my faith, all the things that God has done for me, and remember that it's going to be okay. I did a speech a few months ago after COVID hit to my staff, and it says, "I've seen the last page," was the title of my speech. And for me, as a Christian, I've seen the last page. I know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to go see my mom that went there a couple months ago. And that's the last page.
Yeah.
So when you know what the last page is, it takes away a lot of the worries, the day-to-day worries. Now, am I still going to have lots of obstacles? Do Christians have obstacles and problems? Yeah. Cancer, COVID, all that's still there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a bigger perspective that keeps us away from this drama that's so often up there that just sends people up and down, up and down. It's like, okay, remember the bigger picture, zoom out, see the bigger picture that, okay, it's all, in the end, I know where I'm going. I've seen the last page.
I love it. That's a great word. And I think what you do and your connection with your faith and how you treat people and your connection to perspective and how you work within your organization and treat your people and think about your customers is such a great example of how doing good is good business.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an amazing message. Well, I appreciate you coming and joining us. We learned a lot. I learned a lot. I know everybody got value out of this. I appreciate you so much for coming and joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, Vonnie. Appreciate it.